Hello and welcome. We're going to be studying just a little bit about the life of Christ, and I kind of go with thinking about the life of Christ. Where do you want to start at? Do you? So I thought it'd be best just to do a brief recap, okay, about what's taking place. We're going to be in John chapter 2, so we're going to talk very briefly about what's taking place before John chapter 2. Um, So we know that Jesus had been prophesied. There was going to be a coming Messiah. All throughout the Old Testament, you read those prophetic books, and they talk about a Messiah is coming, a Savior is coming. We get to what we call in our calendar maybe the Christmas story, where Jesus is born. That's the Messiah. You've got the people coming from all over the place. The shepherds hear the news. They come in. They're going to be worshiping this child. Um, the wise men are looking for him. The Magi are looking for him. Um, there's a scheme. All these babies are killed in trying to destroy Jesus. So from his very birth, from the very outset, Jesus is all about controversy. He really is. Nothing's changed today. He's still a controversial subject, the subject of Jesus. The thing about it is that all these thousands of years, that story has survived because he is alive and living. He's the Messiah, and there's no denying that. We hear about Jesus being 12 years old. He's in the temple. He's with his he had been with his parents, but they're going back and they're wondering where he's at. They can't find Jesus anywhere. He's in there at the temple. He's teaching the elders. They're amazed. They marvel at his wisdom. And then they're like, Jesus, we've been looking everywhere for you. And he said, I had to be about my Father's business. And then nothing is really written about Jesus in the Bible. There's stories and there's speculations and there's traditions, but nothing's really written, at least in the context of the Bible. And then all of a sudden, John picks something very odd for the first miracle. He chooses to talk about Jesus turning water into wine. That's found in John chapter 2. So we're going to read it. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, they have no more wine. Dear woman, why do you involve me? Jesus replied, my time has not yet come. His mother said to the servants, do whatever he tells you. Nearby there stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, fill those jars with water. So they filled them up to the brim. And then he said, now draw some water out and take it to the master of the banquet. They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, although the servants who drew the water knew. And then he called the bridegroom aside and he said, everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now. This is the first miraculous sign Jesus performed at Cana in Galilee. He therefore revealed his glory, and his disciples put their faith in him. Now, what an unusual story here that's taken place. For one, they're at this wedding feast. There's wine there, and it would be a big deal not to have enough wine. It's a big deal to run out of wine in this context. And Jesus' mother is concerned. And she goes to Jesus because she knows that he can do something. And so she goes to Jesus with a very specific request. They don't have any wine. And I know it doesn't sound like a request, but it's his mom. So she's like, do something about it. Okay? They don't have any wine. You need to do something about it. But she makes the need known. There's no wine. The need is for more. And then Jesus responds, woman, why are you involving me? It's not even my time yet. And then she responds by going to the people and say, do whatever he tells you to do. Now, there's something significant here. And I'm going to talk briefly about this. But there's something very unique and specific that's taking place here. You see, Mary doesn't know how Jesus is going to respond. She just comes and she says, they've run out of wine. She presents the request. There's no wine, Jesus. And then she turns to the people and says, do whatever he tells you to do. Having faith that if Jesus told them to do nothing, she was okay with that. Because he told her, why are you involving me? It's not my time yet. She's making it known. And sometimes I think we kind of live there in that moment. Where we're like, okay, God, I have this need. There's this need. There's this request. And then we wait for direction. And that's really what's taking place here. These disciples, these people, are these servants, they draw the water because Jesus says to. He might have not told them anything. But he draws it. And they take it to the master of ceremony, and it's good. It's the best. Jesus brings out quality in our life. No matter what we are, no matter what we have to offer, Jesus can bring out the good qualities in us. But I don't want to neglect this, because I think that the part that I mentioned a while ago where Jesus, or where Mary presents the request to Jesus, is so important. Because she's coming and she says to Jesus, they have no more wine. She's made the request. And I think that's the moment we often live in. At that moment, Mary didn't know anything about what was going to happen next. In fact, listen to this commentary by Martin Luther on this subject. He said, this is where faith stands in the heart of battle. Mary does not in her heart interpret this as anger. So think about this moment. Jesus, they have no more wine. Woman, why are you involving me? My time has not yet come. Think of Mary in that moment. This is where faith stands in the heart of the battle. Mary does not in her heart interpret this as anger or as the opposite of kindness, but she adheres firmly to the conviction that Jesus is kind, unwilling to dishonor him in her heart by thinking him to be otherwise than kind and gracious. Hence, the highest thought in this gospel lesson, and must be ever kept in mind, is that we honor God as being good and gracious, even if he acts or speaks otherwise. She is certain that he will be gracious, although maybe at that moment she doesn't feel it. You ever felt as though maybe God's not being quite so kind and gracious? That might be a little bit of what Mary's thinking right here. Jesus, there's no wine. Woman, why are you involving me in this? It's not my time. But she doesn't dishonor him by calling him unkind or thinking in her heart he's unkind or ungracious or any of those things. She doesn't have faith that he is going to do whatever she asks him to do. But she has faith that he would do the right thing. So I want to encourage you to be open and be ready and be prepared. When you present your request to God and it feels like his timing's not right, he's not being unkind, He's not being ungracious. He's responding the right way. And whenever he responds, it brings out all your great qualities. And the master of the ceremony looks at you and says, you've saved the best for now. Just as he did with that wine. Jesus brings out quality in life. Hey, I thank you guys for listening. We're going to be going through a journey of the life of Christ over the next several weeks. We'll post these videos as often as we can. And we'll get more involved in it, and hopefully we'll learn who he is, and we'll look at people who touched him and people that he touched, and hopefully along the way it will touch our lives as well. So remember, Jesus is waiting because he knows the quality he wants to bring out in you, and that quality is greatness. Thanks for listening. I hope you tune in next time. Love you guys.